What's on the other side of that side? What's on the other side? Yeah, let's put that one. We're all here because we're concerned Bay Area residents in support of Stop the Demolition Coalition that's happening in New Orleans. There's a humanitarian crisis going on in New Orleans right now with more than 12,000 people that are literally out in the street on this Christmas Day. Families, babies, elderly people, living in parks, underneath highways, while HUD is destroying public housing, 4,500 units of public housing. This is not the time to be bulldozing any homes whatsoever, and these homes are habitable. Public housing homes are habitable. I was there 2 years ago, 5 months after the hurricane, in front of the B.W. Cooper apartments, and I saw that they were habitable. Even the structural engineers from MIT said that they were structurally sound and habitable. It would cost much less to repair that housing than spend $762 million, which is what HUD is going to be spending of taxpayers' money, to demolish and rebuild, with a net reduction of low-income housing of 82%. In other words, we're going to be spending $762 million to reduce public housing, reduce low-income housing by 82% in New Orleans. Okay, and that's what we're here for. We want Dianne Feinstein to support, first of all, support the Senate Bill 1668, which is the Gulf Coast Hurricane Housing Recovery Act of 2007, which is presently in the Senate committee. Boxer has already co-sponsored it. We want her to co-sponsor it too. But most of all, we want her also to stop the demolition. She's a member of the Appropriations Committee. The Appropriations Committee gives funding to HUD. What's going on is HUD is receiving funding for violating its mission of the Public Housing Act of 1937, which is supposed to provide housing, not demolish housing. And she's also a member of the Judicial Committee, and this is a civil rights issue because the majority of the people that are being displaced and the ones who have been displaced through the four corners of the country are black, African American people. And the majority of the residents or former residents of public housing happen to be female head of household, women of color. And we find that to be a travesty, a civil rights issue right now as well. And even if the New Orleans City Council voted in favor of the demolition, that council does not represent everybody, because we have to remember that there were 200,000 people that were displaced, and the majority of whom could not come back to vote during the last election. Thank you. And they locked them out. They purged the rolls as well.
Thank you. Thank you for your name.
Lisa Milos, M-I-L-O-S.
And title?
I'm just a concerned citizen, a concerned Bay Area resident in support of the coalition to stop the demolition. And here we have people from many areas throughout the Bay Area. We're also upset because this is the Bay Area. We're prone to disasters as well. You know, we have to
oh yeah.
Yes.
You know?
And what channel are you from?
Channel 7.
Everybody here was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, and I'm one of them.
You were?
Yes, 2005.
Oh wow. So tell me your name again. I'm sorry.
Elizabeth Martinez.
And
I'm the director of the Institute for Multiracial Justice, and I've been fighting racism for 50 years, going back to SNCC. Oh boy. Anyway, and it's so obvious in this case that it is racism, you know. Civil liberties, civil rights, true enough, but it's just plain down and out racism.
Yeah.
All over again. It's never stopped, did it? No.
Why? Because they're forced to pay their utility bill, okay? And most people in public housing are they can't pay their rent and the utility bill could be up to $300 a month. So they can't pay that. And so it's bait and switch tactics, okay? And the habitable, so the housing and public housing in those different apartments, sure, there was some damage to some of them, but to tell you the truth, I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. It was minor damage. And their own engineers said that it was structurally sound. MIT engineers went there and said it was structurally sound, and it would cost much less to repair those public housing than to demolish it and rebuild. We're going to end up with a $762 million cost to demolish and rebuild with a net reduction of public housing and low-income housing by 82%. That's unacceptable.
Can I get your title?
My title? I'm Lisa Milos. I'm a concerned Bay Area resident in support of Stop the Demolition Coalition.
So here today, your group is coming to have fruitcake with Dianne Feinstein today, right?
Yeah, hopefully she'll open her doors and let us in. You know, it would be really nice, but I doubt it. We're asking her to support the Gulf Coast Hurricane Housing Recovery Act of 2007, which is presently in the Senate Committee of Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. And That bill was originally drafted by Maxine Waters in the House and was passed in the House, and now it's sitting in committee. And there's only 10 co-sponsors. Boxer is one of them, but Dianne Feinstein is not. And we want her to co-sponsor that bill and push it through, because it seems like HUD is trying to demolish housing before that bill gets through, because that bill would provide for a unit-for-unit replacement of public housing units. And that's what Senator Vitter from Louisiana does not want, the Republican senator. That's why he's opposing it. And I understand that the Old Boys Network in the Senate has the practice of not getting involved in bills when two senators from the same state don't get along or are not in agreement, and sort of they step back and say, no, this is an internal issue. But this is not really an internal issue. The issue is a humanitarian issue. It's a civil rights issue. The majority of the people that are being left behind, that are being set aside, that are literally being bulldozed over are black people, and mostly female heads of household and children. And this is Christmas Day, and we want everybody in this country to realize what is happening.
Housing is a human right, not just for the rich and white. Housing is a human right, not just for the rich and white. Housing is a human right, not just for the rich and white.
They're also tearing down the rental units, which means there's going to be no housing for the poor there in New Orleans.
And more specifically, again, in a nutshell, Feinstein, and why are you guys protesting?
Well, we're protesting in front of Feinstein's home because she has not supported the bill yet. She has not even made a statement regarding this. In this major humanitarian crisis that is still going on, this was the worst disaster in U.S. history right now. It would happen in the Gulf Coast. And also because she is head of the Appropriations Committee, not head, but a member of the Appropriations Committee, which funds HUD, and HUD is receiving funding to violate its mission, basically. And she also is a member of the Judicial Committee, and they should look into the civil rights issue of this, because a lot of legal means have already been exhausted, but this is a major civil rights issue. It's not a legal issue. It's a civil rights and it's a moral issue that the nation has to be aware of and has to wake up and realize we cannot have an America where we have so many poor people in the streets of New Orleans. We cannot.
So if this goes through, what's the worst fear that would happen to all these folks in New Orleans?
They'll be basically displaced. They already are displaced. They're being pushed aside. They're homeless. They're homeless. The worst fear. People here complain about the thousands of people that are homeless in this city. We haven't seen anything yet. 200,000 people have been displaced from New Orleans. Most of them could not even vote for the city council to make this decision that they're deciding, the New Orleans City Council. Most of them were not able to go back to vote, to be able to practice their democratic right of deciding the future of their city.
So what can the public do?
They can call Dianne Feinstein's office and ask her to support the Gulf Coast Hurricane Housing Recovery Act, SB 1668, and they can call her and ask her to please stop the demolitions, to use everything in her power to do so.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
CBS.
We ain't gonna let them slide. We are charging genocide.